What's good, YouTube? Steph here. Welcome to Theta Space. Today I want to talk about the song Shades by Echolyn, particularly because I've just recently been able to fulfill a long-standing wish regarding it. Shades was released on Echolyn's self-titled debut album in 1991. This album featured the lineup of Brett Cull on guitar and vocals, Ray Weston on lead vocals, Chris Busby on keyboards, and Jesse Reyes on bass, and Paul Ramsey on drums. Tom Hyatt replaced Reyes on bass later, and actually plays on a couple of tracks on the first album, but Reyes was the bassist on Shades. It's an extended track, the longest on the album, at 11 minutes, moving through 6 or 7 distinct musical sections. Lyrically, I read it as a melancholy breakup song, apparently inspired by Ray Weston's wife, who Brett Cull likened to the Snow Queen, referencing the Hans Christian Andersen story. I happened to gather this information by watching the documentary disc that came as part of the Stars and Gardens live DVD set that was released in 2004. So they got the lyrics written, inspired by the Snow Queen and her namesake, and the band went to work on the music and produced what I think is their best song that isn't a complete album by itself. I have to add that qualifier because I think May, which is the only track on the album of that name, and comes within half a minute of being 50 minutes long, is actually their best song. Another fun story they told on the DVD was that they won a talent show, and the prize was free studio time to record a single song. So they went in, set up, and started playing Shades. And after a few minutes, the studio people are looking concerned because they'd expected a band that was going to record a 3 or 4 minute song. These guys were going 6, 7, 8 minutes, no sign that it would be ending anytime soon. The whole basic track was live, Cull did a few guitar overdubs, and they also laid vocals down afterward. Personally, I consider most of the first album pretty mid. I don't listen to it much, but Shades by itself makes it worth the purchase price. Echolyn kind of dissolved after As the World because it didn't take off as they were hoping. Sony didn't really help them promote it. And so in disappointment, they kind of folded the band. They got back together without Hyatt on bass, Ray Weston taking over that role, and they released a new album, Cowboy Poems Free. Also around that time, they re-recorded 4 older tracks, including Shades. These ended up on the 3-disc box set, A Little Nonsense Now and Then, released in 2002. This set released the now out-of-print first album, plus the EPs And Every Blossom, which was an acoustic companion to the second album, Suffocating the Bloom, and When the Sweet Turns Sour, which came out after As the World, and was the last thing they released as Echolyn for many years after their lousy big label experience with Sony. The 2000 re-recording of Shades clocks in at 14.5 minutes, adding an extended introduction and an instrumental passage between the last 2 sections. Those plus the slightly slower tempo probably account for the extra 3.5 minutes of runtime. It's really good. I think the instrumental performance surpasses the original, but vocally I think Weston nailed it the first time. The new song's okay in a vacuum, but in a world where it coexists with the original, I find it lacking. In particular, in the part that passes for a chorus, because it's where a whole verse of lyrics are repeated. The original track has 2 vocal parts sung in parallel, while Cull sings, "Do you think of me with a smile full of contempt?" Weston sings, "Even my Juliet, with her faded rose, can't conceal the obvious crimson tears that fill my life's cup." It's a lot like the section of And You and I by Yes on Close to the Edge, where the organ through a vocoder is singing "Turn round, Taylor, assaulting all the mornings of the interest shown, against the coins and crosses never know their fruitless worth." It's actually kind of hard to hear on the Close to the Edge album, but Chris Squire sings it on Yes songs while John Anderson and Steve Howe sing the other part. Shades 2000, however, has just the "smile full of contempt" lyrics and not the rest of this passage. So I started to entertain this fantasy of somehow taking the vocals off the original and grafting them onto the 2000 instrumental. At one point, like about 6 or so years ago, I thought to email the band and ask if they had remix stems available. Brett Cull was the one who answered, and he told me, quote, "The original version of Shades is on tape. We tracked it at a studio back in 1991 after winning a band contest. I have the 2-inch reel it's on, but we'll only get it out to archive one of these days. The remake is on ADAT to my recollection and was done for fun as an exercise and promotional idea. Everything from 2002 onward is more accessible and preserved digitally. Thanks for asking. So I thanked him for his time and figured the project was just busted. Until this past month, when I remembered my brother had told me about an app called Moises. He sent me a text about it back in March, and he was using it to make mixes of songs to play his drums along to. I finally tried it out last month, and it works amazingly well. I started using it to make bassless versions of songs that I want to do bass cover videos of, but can't find the bass-free mixes on the YouTubes. And then I remembered this project, and so I loaded each version of Shades in, and then threw the resulting stems into Reaper. The tempo is different, like I mentioned. I think Shades 2000 is slower, considering that I had to stretch most of the original vocals to fit them properly. But I only stretched the duration of the clips. I didn't slip edit anything to align words with beats. Ray Weston's original performance is as unaltered as I was able to leave it. I'm pretty happy with the result. Maybe later I'll see if I can get the few parts of the original instrumental that I think the remake didn't improve on and incorporate them into my perfect version of Shades, but for now this is quite satisfactory. Better than satisfactory, actually. I won't be putting it up on this channel. I'm still hoping that maybe I can monetize someday, so I don't want to have too much copyrighted material here, but I do have a second channel that was created automatically when Google bought the YouTubes, and I migrated most of this kind of content over there. I'll link to it in the description, and it will also be a link here. Should be right about here. So go check it out. See you next time. Steph out.